And welcome to more Bound by Flame with me, Oni Black Mage. Alright, so continuing this adventure, we just fought the concubine holding down the fortress, actually not fortress, but the main gates over in Coralthus. Tried assaulting it, didn't work out so well. Edwin ended up leaving the group over a disagreement in words, and had a small skirmish with Lord Blackfrost, didn't win, and now we find ourselves in the sewers, far, far below the city. And this thing just animated. So Rhelmar, the only person who fell down here with me, and I are just going to investigate what the heck that thing is and why it's leading away. Alright, so to a group of small skeletons. Oh, these are tiny skeletons. These guys aren't bad. Haven't seen these guys since the tutorial dungeon. Get to Blackfrost's domain. I mean, is the sewer going to conveniently lead to... Alright, oh, okay, so I guess Blackfrost is still in the city, so we're going through the old city to go, I guess, under instead of through the main gates and barricades that Lord Blackfrost has holding his army in the city. But yeah, when it came to the last skirmish and disagreement, it came down between Rhelmar and Edwin, and I actually agreed with Edwin in this case, but because her path would have meant embracing the demon, I didn't choose it. Because, no offense, Rhelmar, you're cool, but I don't owe the elves any loyalty whatsoever. They've done absolutely zero to help us, and their army hasn't been very effective in this war, and their main plan was basically sending us up front anyway, which is what we are doing anyway, which means they're completely useless. More so than useful. So it seems just about the remnants of every single sentient race out there, human and elf, are all gone. At this rate, the group that I'm leading right now will be the only living group of people, which is kind of interesting actually. I wonder if the game would actually end on that, where pretty much 99.999% of the population that isn't undead is dead / undead now. That would be an interesting way to end the game, actually. Like I mentioned before, a lot of European games seem to end on a very dark or perhaps even depressing note. It would not surprise me if that's how this game ended. Where it's like, yep, you killed this guy or the other, but unfortunately your last army went down and, yeah, not so much. Great, they're already animating. Well, actually, this begs the question. If the undead know that they're just going to animate from the corpses of their fallen enemies, which has been their plan all along, you know, every time one of us falls, their ranks grow, then what's the point of throwing them all the way down here in the sewer? Why don't you just leave them to stand around? They're just going to stand back up again. And also, who's the one throwing them down here to begin with? Is it our army? Are we that stupid? Seriously? Like, I know my fire is magical and stuff like that, but seriously, regular fire can burn and get rid of bodies just the same. They're not going to rise and animate from a pile of ashes, I guarantee you. I swear, our armies are so stupid. That or their army is doing this, in which case they're also stupid, so why are we losing to them? Look at me trying to apply logic to this. It certainly just rise out of the ground. There's that little bone thing again. That was a smaller one, though. These things are bone golems, apparently. This is pretty standard fare. I mean, between these guys, it looks like they're all close combat guys, except for the archers, of course. Which means there's not too many magic users down here. Fine by me. The Bone Golem seems to have also that same purple energy that the blacksmith fat guy had. However, he doesn't seem to be... oh, that was weird. it doesn't seem to be reflecting the damage that I'm dealing to him. Another thing is that I noticed that the bone golem dropped into this little purple energy, and I had to smack that to kill him. Maybe it was like the soul that it was holding. Maybe it just happened to be purple. It's not actually dark energy. Or maybe it's dark energy, but maybe that one fat guy is the only type of mini that actually reflects damage, because this guy doesn't reflect damage, thankfully. He deals plenty enough as is. Whew, that was close. I should have bought more potions before I came down here. That is my next pro tip. When I do I plan on doing another video guide series, like I think I mentioned this before, where it's not going to be a full-on like deep tactical tips and tricks, because this game is not deeply tactical. It's going to be a basic beginner's guide to XYZ, and it's the sort of guide that you would review before playing the game, or even while you're getting started, for helpful hints that you kind of realize and learn along the way or in hindsight. So I'm just kind of saving you the time. For example, the only things worth in the pyromancy tree, for real, is flame weapon first and foremost. You need flame weapon regardless of what your build is going to be. And if you're going to be a pyromancer, then invest in flame orb. Go all the way up the tree. Flame orb is very, very powerful. And if you want to, it certainly helps, but it's not always necessary, is guardian flames. Another thing I would highly say is, don't worry about, when it comes down to either scrapping your items to make items, that is to say when you recycle them, or selling them, do a little bit of both. My suggestion is you want to keep a healthy stock of potions on you at all times. Potions are the only thing worth buying in any shop. Don't bother with anything else. Use the rest of your materials for crafting, and once you're done crafting everything you need, craft first, and then once you're done crafting, sell anything else, and buy potions. Everything that you want that's good is out there in the field, either as a side quest drop, or it's just in a chest, frankly. Nothing really superior is in a shop. So there's no point in buying anything from the shop, especially given those crazy prices. Just buy potions. Potions in the shop are actually cheaper than if you were to buy the components yourself. Alright. That goes off somewhere, but let's check this dead end up ahead. I have to say, between this and any other games that are similar, I have to say this game still holds its own in a mechanical point of view. Like, there are many simplistic choices that are often overlooked in terms of say equipment upgrades or the way they handle equipment. Like, I personally like it when I change my character's gear and equipment and weapons and stuff like that, that I actually see my avatar changing said equipment, item, and gear. You'd be surprised. There are a few games out there that still do not do that. And or I kind of like it when the designs are not goofy, not toonish, and not necessarily elaborate, but both functional and stylized. Like, in line with the dark, gritty style that this game seems to be going for, I would like it if a lot of the more superior armor sets were like that. This game makes very deliberate choices, and I understand there are people that were criticizing it for not having the the nice-to-haves, but I can do that with any game, so that's not a very fair comparison. There is no perfect RPG out there, frankly. There really isn't. And a lot of people may think there are, and everybody's allowed their own opinion, absolutely. But in my book, there has yet to be any game out there that there can't just be something better, you know? And that's good. That gives us something to constantly strive and improve for. Okay, picked up some weapons. These weapons are definitely better than what I've been holding. That Sabertooth might be what I upgrade next, honestly. Alright, those are clearly superior. Alright, that's a lot better. It's a shame that gives resistance to the poison, though. I don't think there's too many things down here that poison. I haven't run into too many fat guys. The main things in here, the new enemies seem to be the bone golems. And they're actually surprisingly easy, because they attack very rhythmically, which means they can be countered, as you can see, very, very simply once you just beat them to it. And even their attack and even their explosion can be countered if you perfect guard at the right time. Go figure. So even their magic explosion that they charge and time up, you can block that the moment that it erupts and take no damage once standing in melee. You can do that. And that's another pro tip. Get good at blocking. Seriously. I don't suggest turtling up, though. Turtling up will not let you block the damage, or at least from an explosion. If you perfect guard, though, the type of perfect guard that results in a counterattack, then you will take no damage. Bones bag, huh? I actually didn't know what these little tiny things were called. Let me see if Flame Wave is actually still worth something. Alright, it's worth a pushback, but it's not worth much else. It deals pathetic damage, it's mostly there just for the pushback. I guess like a group kickback or something like that, or maybe it's a guard breaker. Like maybe Flame Wave would be especially useful against guys like this, but Flame Wave is unfortunately expensive for what it does. For what it costs to do a Flame Wave, I might as well just do Fire Orb. I really don't like these shield guys. It's so tiresome trying to get this. I have to kill one of these guys, seriously. Might as well do the Bone Golem first, because gosh, they're both at half health now. And it's so hard because they can't get a window in, because they're both attacking at the same time. See? Gosh. I just have to tough it out. Ah! The explosion got me. It's so tiresome. Some of these combinations of enemies are really tedious. The ones I don't like are the ones that take forever to beat down, and that's the shield guys, the guys with the greatsword with dark energy, and not necessarily these bone golems. These bone golems go out fast enough, and you have to have flame weapon because, as we just saw in the last battle, if you have a regular weapon, they're going to regenerate. But throwing all these tough guys in, gosh, terrible. Especially since I still haven't figured out an effective way to break their guard and make them easy to deal with. I wouldn't mind with them so much if there was an easy way to circumnavigate the defenses, like, you know, some way tactical to get that. But if that's not going to be the case, then jeez, I don't like dealing with them. I'm sure glad I invested in the get up faster one though, because my gosh, as many times as I've been knocked down. See, like, doing guard break doesn't necessarily lower the defense that much. You see how little damage I'm dealing? Gosh. See, I'm glad that he's on fire, because at least when he's on fire, he takes crits from things. That's one of the things that I'm glad I invested in, is lighting things on fire and having increased chances for that. That alone has saved my butt more than once. It's actually been devastating on the concubines too. They're especially vulnerable to being lit on fire. I was going to saw right through them. I'm kind of worried that some of these things are going to animate. The resistance to magic is what I like about this, as well as the attack speed being different, or decent. So I'm going to basically use a default sort of setup in which one is going to help increase physical damage and the other one's going to increase the flame. Yeah, set on fire. I like that. Alright, there we go. Much stronger. Got some decent stuff back, alright. Alright, so even when I'm done with this game, it'll still be up on my shelf. I probably may never play it again because this doesn't seem like the type that once you go through, and once I beat it, I am going to go for completion. I was taking a look at a lot of the side quests, actually achievements. I call achievements sometimes side quests because that's the way that I choose to look at it. Sometimes a lot of them seem like fun things to do on the side, different sort of metagame ways to play, such as, hey, how about you kill an enemy 30 times this way? I'm like, okay, that seems kind of fun. It doesn't give you any in-game reward, but it's kind of a fun thing to do, just to spice things up and change the pace a little bit. Especially since it doesn't really make a difference, you might as well just do something fun and different. And just having a little tiny little award there, either a trophy or an achievement, is just kind of nice to have. Just be like, hey, you know what? I indulged in that little optional side quest. I don't kill myself with these sort of things, but they're fun to do when they're not too out of the way. And I was taking a look at the list for this game, and it's pretty simple. You can basically get through everything basically in 2 runs. And if this is definitely one of the games that doesn't take too much time, then I plan on playing this anyway as I wrap up other game guides that I'm doing and any other videos that I'm editing. Might be rough this week though. I have a pretty tight schedule on work, so. But that aside, getting through this probably won't take too long, and going through a second time will be even faster since I know what I'm doing. As always, you know, the second time is always the fastest one. So whenever games always say they have to do multiple playthroughs, it's always amazing how fast you can go through a game. You know, once you know what you're doing and how to fight and things like that, how the game actually works. You probably shock yourself. I know I do for me. I always surprise myself saying, man, I took this long getting to this point? Seriously? The first time through? It reminds me of the first Mass Effect. I chose to go through that game and play every single class. I think there were like 6 classes or whatever. And experiment with combining teams with every single team member, so that way I would be like best friends with one teammate the entire way through. And I have to say, it's like going through that game on subsequent playthroughs. The first one was like maybe 30 hours or like 40 hours, something like that, the first time going through. And just about all the subsequent playthroughs got shorter and shorter and shorter. By the time I was on like my 3rd, 4th, and 5th, and 6th playthrough, I was burning through the game in basically 6 to 8 hours. While doing basically 80% of the content. Because I knew exactly where to go, how to do things, and I could just zip from point A to point B. I can go through an entire playthrough and, you know, still go to work and have a good night's sleep all in one day. And is that to say that the game is absurdly short? Not necessarily, because everybody plays a game the first time, and that's the experience that everybody gauges it by. Not by the optimized, you know, pseudo speedrun experienced playthrough. That's not the run that everybody plays. Everybody plays the blind playthrough at first. Because even when you're watching me play this, that doesn't mean you're playing it, so it may help some aspects speed through, but for the majority of which, you're still going to go through at your own pace, and that isn't necessarily going to be that much better. It's not going to be like the most optimized speed path. That's why I always find it funny when I talk shop with other game players, maybe at like a GameStop or something like that, and they'll say, yeah, I don't need to play that game, I already watched somebody play it online. It's like, that may be true that you watch somebody play it, but it's a completely different experience than actually doing it. You know, watching somebody eat a sandwich isn't the same thing as eating a sandwich. Watching somebody watch a movie, first of all, it's kind of weird, watching somebody watch a movie. is not the same thing as watching said movie. Okay, maybe it wasn't the best example. Watching somebody drive a car isn't the same thing as driving a car. You know, when there's some sort of level of control, some sort of agency that you need to deliver as a player, then yeah, the experience is completely different. You are not enjoying it or going through it as the experience is playing it. So no, you didn't really play it. You basically just watched a really, really long movie. Still raining body parts. And who on earth is dropping this stuff off? That area looks special when it's all off to the side like that and it has an unusual tomb. You guys are annoying. Alright, let's see. Ouch. I didn't actually expect to go down that easily. I think I just got crit on him a few times. Alright, well, shame on me. Back we are. I'm dying usual a lot in this sewers, I swear. Fortunately, there was a checkpoint right here, so not too bad. You know what's one thing I can compliment this game about having, ironically, which isn't really a compliment, but it's a doesn't have and didn't exploit, which is good job, Spiders, for not having a bajillion microtransactions or locked DLC on this disc. It is amazing to see how accepted we have become of things like DLC. I don't know why expansions are so rare. Like the last expansion that I consider an actual expansion, not what somebody claims it is an expansion, is probably Dragon Age Origins Awakening. That was an expansion. It had the length of an expansion to it. You know? The StarCraft thing I didn't feel was an expansion so much as part 2 of a game. Like I'm still one of those that feels StarCraft is divvied up into 3 parts, and those are 3 parts of one complete game. That's not the complete game, any one thing. Yeah, there may be different campaigns, the campaigns have different length, but I don't feel still that any one game sold separately is a full game. I feel there's just three trinkets of the full experience. Another thing I feel is, let's see, games come out with some content. Let's see, there's always the Skyrim stuff and the Fallout stuff. None of those feel like expansions. Again, that's all that is extra downloadable content, but none of that had the length and the impact and the effort put in to call that a full-on expansion. And I know we're kind of basically drawing the lines and picking semantics here about what constitutes an expansion versus DLC. Isn't an expansion more a definition of the content and a DLC more the delivery of the content? Can they not be the same thing? You know, they could be the same thing. But I also like to say that an expansion, and maybe this is just my arbitrary definition, but it's the expectations that I personally put forward. And if, you know, as long as I can communicate that and we're on the same page, we don't need to argue about it. Because then you at least see where I'm coming from and you might understand my perspective. An expansion I consider equal to the gameplay content, quality, and length of a standalone game. And it doesn't have to be a full-on, full retail game. It could be a budget game. That's why usually most expansions are usually like maybe half or 2/3 the price of the full game. That's because they're worth it in terms of all that stuff. These days, they try to pass expansions off as season passes, where we're gonna deliver you content that could be equivalent to an expansion over the course of multiple little DLC packs. And you know what? I can accept that In which case, that's kind of like what Fallout did. Skyrim didn't do that. Bioshock Infinite didn't do that. Those guys are a waste of time when it came to season passes. That's why I don't believe in season passes anymore. You want to basically go for the Game of the Year editions if you want to. Because those are the only ones that are worth it. Because these days, publishers cannot be trusted when it comes to content that they, quote, are going to deliver in the future. I don't believe it at all. Especially if the game has multiplayer, I especially don't believe getting season passes early, because odds are they're just going to throw in extra weapons or map packs, which I do not care about at all. I want single player content. I want meat, seriously. Don't give me this watered down nonsense. Give me meat. By the way, when it comes to Game of the Year, like when it comes to DLC, that actually probably would have been worth the season pass, but I don't think they actually offered a season pass. But I'm glad they came out with it. Was Fallout 3. Fallout 3, every single one of that all the content that they put out was excellent. All was well thought out, had its own identity, was very useful, accompanied the main campaign well, and in some cases just seriously improved the base experience. It was fantastic. For example, I loved how Broken Steel added not only the level cap, but also actually changed many of the actual encounters you encountered in the main game. I thought that was really, really cool. Let's see. All the extra DLC together that they had, all the extra content and like that, Borderlands 2 and stuff like that, I feel that is the quote-unquote expansion. They just call it Season Pass, which is a very generic way of labeling all of it. Or, you know, Game of the Year Edition, GOTY, G-O-T-Y, the GOTY Edition. Or the GOTY, however you want to say it. That is, that's what expansions pass for these days. GOTYs. And I don't like how standardized that's become. I really don't. I also don't appreciate the rush for having games worked on and rushed in a year. I remember when it came to franchise titles, and there's a few franchises that still do this. They still do this. Is a quality installment in their franchise didn't come out for maybe once every 2 years. They really put a lot of effort into it. They really put a lot of stuff. These days, they want to sell you like an incomplete version of a game in a year, sometimes less, by the way. An incomplete version of the game, and then charge you more than the full retail game to get the rest of the full game experience, which just boggles my mind. It's like, this is seriously the retail model? So when you actually think about it... okay, good. Managed to kill him right when he was reanimating. When you think about it, a $60 game with a $20 or $30 season pass, and some of the big ones, like I think Battlefield 4 or Ghosts, have $50 season passes. My God. So literally, the game, plus the cost of the game again, in some cases, if you're a PC, the game is like $50 basically. Which, by the way, I fully believe that you should play shooters on a PC, with a mouse, by the way. Let's see. Then, you're basically paying for the game twice over. You are paying 100% of the game to only get 100% of the game. So basically you're paying twice as much for what you should have been getting off the bat, which is ridiculous to me. But anyway, looks like we finally made it out of the sewers. I was kind of expecting a boss confrontation, maybe with a giant cadaver or something like that, but that didn't happen. That didn't happen. I was expecting that giant pile of cadavers to rise up and try to attack me, but that didn't happen. Looks like a few remnants did actually survive. Go figure, it's these useless guys. Looks like everybody else got captured, apparently. And my team is missing. At least Mathras is alive, okay. Of course he's immortal, why wouldn't he be?
He has been serving as our scout. I've been sensing something unhealthy in the air.
You know, Rhelmar, I revise my opinion. You're pretty useful.
To slow down.
Shame you can't heal, though.
I can feel it too. It's not the nicest feeling I've ever had, but I don't think it's gonna slow us down much.
Speak for yourself. My head feels like an anvil, and that's without my even listening to Randval's say anything. If I have to continually fight...
Alright, so it looks like Rhelmar's gonna bow out of the group.
there's a good chance that
Gonna have to probably go link up with Mathras now and have Mathras as my companion.
Let's go
Alright,
find
search for
out.
Mathras is on.
Might have found out.
So, I'm gonna pause here then, and thank you for watching. Please feel free to continue as we continue on Bound by Flame. Thanks for watching. Bye.